All right, well, a very, very happy Wednesday, and welcome to another episode of the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Today is January 14th of 2026, and I just wanted to start off by explaining when these episodes are created, they're done earlier in the day. I'm talking 1, maybe noon, or even 11 o'clock. And it allows me to spend an hour or two in post editing, to put up overlays, to put up questions or statements on the screen for when I post it on YouTube for people to watch. They can have something engaging in during the conversations. And when I post the same time for audio, is scheduled 7 o'clock to be released, scheduled 7 o'clock. And when it happens, I get that gap between when I finish the show to 7 o'clock, that something can break through and we miss it. And so, last couple of days, including yesterday, we were talking about the Mike Tomlin and what the decision should be for Mike Tomlin. And it broke immediately following my episode and about Mike Tomlin deciding to step away after 19 years. And immediately I start getting comments. Well, man, that's old news. That just broke. Matter of fact, before I did my recording, which was around, I want to say noon or 1 o'clock, I created a TikTok short kind of questioning the future of Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers. And this was, obviously an hour or two afterwards, this is what we get. So, it's one of those things where you got to take what is given to you. It is what it is. And we make the best of do with what we have. And we try to cover stories that can be told at a later date for people to listen to. It's going to be hard because baseball season comes up and I'm expected to have this episode published by 7. Maybe we'll move up in the time if I start doing earlier in the mornings. That's a possibility. But I do want to give myself some time to post edit, put like pop-ups, maybe some overlays, some pictures that engages and attract the attention of you with the audience. And so, I give myself at least an hour or two to edit anything I need to edit, fine tune, allowing it to process. Now, this is what I got to go back and say. Riverside, which is the online studio website that I use to stream my videos, they have that editing service. They pull out magic clips that just make things simpler. Instead of having to go through each episode and the hour-long process to pull out shorts and to pull out clips, all I got to do is they'll pull out what they think could be a good clip. I'll go in there and I'll lengthen it to however long it needs to be lengthened. And then I can add on my overlays to that specific clip and what I want, or create a short out of it and then export it and then be able to upload it to the platforms for you guys to watch. So it's a process that, we're still new. I haven't decided, hey, I'm going to go live again. This allows me to not have to designate a specific time every day. For example, noon. It allows me to get stuff done in the morning, pop on, do an hour recording, get into the edits, post it, and then go out throughout the rest of my evening. And Riverside, provides that simplicity for these videos. So, I don't know. Maybe the future changes. I understand that I feel like it becomes deceiving because I'm not here to try to give you inaccurate information or false news, or I'm trying to sit here and actually give you compelling stories, give you my opinions on where those stories stand, and engage and have an authentic, casual conversation with you. And so I do apologize if you guys are listening to this podcast at 7 o'clock and you're just telling me, oh, we're talking about something that the result of it has already taken place. For example, today we are going to discuss possible landing spots that would make sense or sound interesting for wide receiver A.J. Brown. We know maybe a vague concept of the conflicts that are taking place between A.J. Brown and the Philadelphia Eagles. And after doing some research, I have found a few landing spots that seem compelling. Now, I'm going to share that with you, and that's going to be aired here within the 7 o'clock hour. But that doesn't mean between the time of this recording and 7 o'clock, breaking news makes way and there's another conversation because A.J. Brown got traded or whatnot. Just like yesterday, we talked about the possibility and what we think Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers should do. And then the news break that Mike Tomlin is stepping down. Also, on today's conversation, we are going to give you our top 5 WWE male wrestlers of 2025. Our top 5 WWE male wrestlers of 2025. I want to break that down for you, let you know who I think cuts it in the top 5. We will at some point, maybe later this month, review PWI's top 500, maybe take a short glimpse of it. But this here, my top 5, are based off of 2 things from the WWE, from professional sports entertainment overall. One is their accomplishments throughout the year. What have they been able to accomplish? And 2, what type of impact they have left professional wrestling on throughout the course of the year. And the reason why I say that is because we'll go back to John Cena's statement that he has talked about it, and the goal should be in the WWE to leave the industry better than the way you came in. And if these wrestlers would have left, not only would have, and their career ended today, not only they would have made in case based off of their performance in 2025 a Hall of Fame career, but they would have left the industry a better spot than they would have had left it when they first started. So that is our conversation today. I want to jump into the Mike Tomlin stepping down. I think it's fair to say we all knew that this was going to happen. I don't think there was any doubt that this wasn't going to happen. The doubts came of the when and where. We're in the middle of the postseason. We're still in football season throughout the month of January. And I would ask, was kind of shocked to see him make this announcement so quickly. But we talked about ripping off that Band-Aid, not sugarcoating it, not making any, irrational decisions. I expected him maybe to wait a week, maybe 2. But Mike Tomlin felt it was in his best interest to announce yesterday that he will be stepping down from his 19 years as head coach with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And more reports come out today about Tomlin not planning at the moment to coach in 2026, despite all the interesting stories and teams that are interested in him. Because, just because you're leaving a team, doesn't mean that you're not qualified to be someone else's head coach. And I can tell you right now, a handful of guys handful of organizations that could use a wise head coach in Mike Tomlin. the Ravens, the Giants, the Browns, the Raiders are just a few to mention that could be impacted by the knowledge, the experience, and the Hall of Fame career that Mike Tomlin provides as a head coach. But good for him, because this isn't a part about making irrational decisions here. I wouldn't mind seeing Mike Tomlin coach for another team, but we just got done. He just got done coaching 19 consecutive years with the Steelers. So maybe there's warrants out there to take a break. Just enjoy life a little bit, spend it with your family, and maybe springtime, summertime, something comes up and you're interested, jump on it. If you wait a year, maybe you miss the 2026 season and decide, hey, I do still want to coach. Cool. Let's see what teams need your help. I don't think that dynamic is going to change. And we've seen coaches do this before. I've seen it in baseball. Bruce Bochy announced his retirement, from the Giants head, manager, and he ends up coming back to coach the Texas Rangers and wins the World Series. So it has been done. But it's not an easy decision. I respect that. This also doesn't rip the Band-Aid off any faster. Now it's clear saying that there is a new era, ending of an era, and a new beginning, a fresh start for Pittsburgh. I think there's still a lot of question that needs to be answered, and as soon as Pittsburgh can have that clear direction for who their new head coach is going to be, what that coaching staff looks like heading into the offseason, then, and then only then, the Steelers can begin that process, because I feel along with that process, it's going to come with a series of quarterbacks. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is coming back under a new head coach position, and that means they're more so looking either into the quarterback free agency, or they're looking towards drafting a quarterback. So those are going to, and I feel like Pittsburgh is a defensive team. So do you bring in a defensive coach or coordinator to, because that's what they're highlighted for? Or do you maybe say, all right, you're good on the defense. Let's bring in an offensive coordinator or a head coach that, is focused on the offense, and then pair him up with a new quarterback and go from there. So a lot is to be said about the situation, but it's a clear direction about the pathway that the Steelers are going moving forward. And it's going to happen eventually. As much as maybe I sit here and I'm holding on to the past. I'm holding on to this historic value that I don't want to change, especially in Pittsburgh. Because there is no certainty about the change in Pittsburgh. You don't know who that next head coach is going to be, and if he's going to be able to lead your team back to the playoffs, get over that hump from losing consecutive postseasons from making the playoffs like Mike Tomlin has. Can this person maintain a winning record like Mike Tomlin has over the last 19 seasons? I mean, it's the same questions that opened up when Tom Brady left, the Patriots, and they questioned what was next for the organization. It took them some years, and now they may be finding themselves, their new direction with Drake May and Mike Vrabel. But it is a new direction. It is scaring, but that's the name of the game in hindsight. So as we look towards that, we head into the divisional round. Tomorrow episode, we will start giving you our predictions of who we think is going to win in these matchups. The only thing I will tell you now about the divisional matchups, to me, I'm trying to find comparisons between everyone. It seems to me everything's going to be head coach versus head coach. Head coach versus head coach in showdowns. That's the only little spiel I'll take. We'll talk a little bit more about that heading into tomorrow's episode. I do have one question that I want to ask the Steelers Nation. And this is something that we're probably never going to know the honest answer. But I'm interested in seeing what was the ultimate decision yesterday afternoon that led toward Mike Tomlin's choice to step away. Was it him finally realizing, just out of year after year performance of what he's done over the 19 years, that, hey, it's time. I may have lost a step. It's time to reevaluate myself. I've done everything I could possibly do for Pittsburgh. I've left this organization in a good position, new opportunity. Let me just step away. Or did the front office have a role in it? Did the front office maybe push Mike Tomlin to leave? Or was it the fan base that pushed Mike Tomlin to leave? Because Steeler Nation was pretty harsh. Analytics were pretty harsh. Myself, at times, were pretty harsh on Mike Tomlin. And everyone put aside the consecutive winning seasons, what he has done in the past, and focused in on what Mike Tomlin wasn't doing. The inconsistency that he was bringing to the table. And so when I ask this question, I am seriously just genuinely wanting to know what ultimately led to the decision of Mike Tomlin stepping down. Did the fans push too hard at the gates? Ownership and front office took that and maybe had several meetings with Mike Tomlin and said, look, this is, I don't want to have to make this tough decision. Let's do us a favor. Is there a severance pack? I don't know the details, but, I do want to know if that, or if it was his personal decision, understanding where he's at along the game. I don't know. What do you guys think? Alrighty. Well, before we get down to A.J. Brown's conversations, Jim Harbaugh, or not Jim, John Harbaugh, I will make sure I get that right. They always mix up, even though Jim has had a better success career, in my opinion. But John Harbaugh is meeting with the New York Giants for the first time as he seeks out a new coaching opportunity with a different organization. This comes a week after getting fired by the Baltimore Ravens, and it starts off. The Giants, I think, is a good candidate team. I think Jackson Dart is a solid quarterback that, with the right personnel behind him and with the right players to play with them, then the Giants can. I'm going to say Giants could be as good as if not better than the Dallas Cowboys. But I've also just to entertain the idea that John Harbaugh could coach for the Raiders and compete against his brother 2 times a year and for a division. But when I look at the Raiders, as much as there's promising stuff, there's just so much dilemma going on throughout the course of the year in Las Vegas that yes, there are intriguing points to coaches in attraction to Las Vegas, but I would honestly say stay away from Las Vegas. But that doesn't mean necessarily anything to me because I'm not a head coach. I've been there, done that. I'm not I'm not in Las Vegas. I'm not following the Raiders as closely. All right, I want to turn my attention to the AJ Brown situation in Philadelphia. As I read stories and articles, it kind of becomes more clear that there is a high good chance that AJ Brown could be seeking another team. Obviously, we've seen what has taken place throughout the course of this past season. And let's be frank, we're not going to know what's really being said. But what we do know is that it looks like there's some sort of conflict between AJ Brown and, coaching staffs, AJ Brown and management and ownership, which negativity doesn't have a high impact on an organization, especially a winning organization like the Eagles, who were eliminated by the 49ers over the wild card weekend. I'm not going to point fingers and blame AJ Brown for their loss, but AJ Brown is a good receiver. Reminds me a lot like Odell Beckham. And if there were any teams out there this offseason that could look to improve their offensive receivers, I have a few here that could truly impact and make a compelling argument on why a deal shouldn't be done. So this first deal would be coming from the New England Patriots. We have an MVP caliber quarterback in Drake May. We have Stephon Diggs, Demario Douglas, Kyle Williams adding to that group. And I think, we're not saying that it becomes a new dynasty, but it elevates what, the tools that Drake May has to work with. Let's not forget that A.J. Brown and Mike Vrabel began their careers out there with Tennessee, and Mike Vrabel didn't really necessarily like the idea of the Titans trading away, A.J. Brown during the 2022 draft. So I feel like this would be a great landing spot. This is on top of my list. If there was any team that maybe needs that extra hump, that needs that extra security by the football world, that, hey, they're a serious team. Because quite frankly, I mean, I'm acknowledging and I'm kind of getting behind everything that Drake May and the Patriots have been able to do this season, but I'm almost waiting to see when it collapse and if it collapse. And so far, they're riding this high tail that indicates that they are this force to be reckoned with. And I'm not quite there yet, but I'm very close. And so does AJ Brown do the trick for me in thinking that, that with the prominent defense that they showcased against the Chargers over the weekend, with Stephon Diggs and a young Douglas and Williams, you're throwing in an AJ Brown that if he gets away from Philadelphia, he gets this new start, new look, he's going to be targeted. That Patriots offense is going to be very, very dangerous. So looking for that. The Buffalo Bills, if the Patriots don't capitalize on that deal, and I don't know where their position's at right now, the Bills and the Patriots are in postseason mode. Let's to be frank, right? Broncos as well, and they're on that list. I'll get to them in a second. But the Buffalo Bills, it's a key upgrade to Josh Allen. I mean, and then you throw in a guy like Kevin Coleman, who's 38 who's had 38 receptions with 400 yards and 4 touchdowns this year in the second year. You also throw in Josh Palmer, who was a free agent. He's 22 receptions with over 300 yards. I mean, Josh Allen needs a couple extra key guys and ingredients. I mean, A.J. Brown knows the cold. He knows the atmosphere. plays in Philadelphia. And if A.J. Brown doesn't go to the Patriots, I would be intrigued to see how deep the Bills' pockets go to try to get a star receiver. What about the Broncos? Out there, high altitude. It's kind of hard. I'm like, who would want to go to Denver? Who would want to play for the Broncos? Mile High, Colorado. I mean, I could see A.J. Brown going out there. They got a young Sutton. You know, he has 100 receiving yards, plus he's under contract through 2029. I mean, you're throwing in combinations for Bo Mix, who I think when you have a solid receiving unit that can make grabs, be catches, be at the right place at the right time, Brown's one of those guys who qualifies, then it builds Nix's confidence. And we've seen Bo Nix and this Broncos offense. They're not the most talented offense. They're not top 5 ranked in my opinion. I don't even know if they're top 10 ranked in my opinion. The defense has carried the Broncos to the success they've had. The offense and Bo Nix's offense ability his confidence has grown throughout the year as he's gotten comfortable, and that has helped elevate their offense over the last back end of the season. But it doesn't necessarily pivot. They still need some help. And so does a key star like, does like A.J. Brown, does that help continue building Bo Nix's confidence? Every quarterback needs a little bit of help, needs a little bit of guidance to help push him and push the offense to where it needs to go. Does A.J. Brown do that? Yes, he does. And I like the idea that a Broncos could be a possible landing spot. Despite being inconsistently, I don't think they should belong in the top 10 as offense, but they are ranked in the top 10. What about the Baltimore Ravens? You talk about a new, fresh, new look, new start. The Ravens look very appealing to the better nation. You're going to get a new head coach pairing up with Lamar Jackson. You're going to throw in Zay Flowers, who had 86 receptions this year and received over 1,200 yards with 5 touchdowns. Let's not forget, you got DeAndre Hopkins and Isaiah Likely, who's hitting free agency. But guess what? And I think this would be an interesting note. If A.J. Brown says, you know what, let me go to Baltimore, and you're trying to maybe present an idea like DeAndre Hopkins or Likely, hey, we got Zay Flowers, Lamar Jackson. Here's our new head coach. Oh, by the way, we got A.J. Brown. Would you want to come back? Yes, maybe ask you to eat a little bit of the salary so we can make things work. But we're going to be a much more elevated team this year. Let's not forget, A.J. Brown's would be reuniting with Derrick Henry from their time back in Tennessee. And don't forget, the time they were with Tennessee was back in 2019, where the Titans went to an AFC title run. So the Ravens could be a very high pivotal point for A.J. Brown. And then I also threw in the Los Angeles Chargers. We know they need extra help offensively. I don't feel like they have that one receiver that they can just instantly go to. Yes, you have Quentin Johnson. Yes, you have Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey. They've all had 700-plus yards this season in receiving, which is it's great, but the success has been spread out. When you bring in a guy like maybe A.J. Brown, what you're doing is you're creating that receiver number 1, receiver number 2. And I'm going to reference this back to Bengals fans. You have Jamar Chase as receiver number 1 and T. Higgins receiver number 2. You have Andrea, who would be receiver number 3. I was going to say Burton, but he's got released. My point is that defensively, when you start looking at these opponents, a lot of teams double team Jamar Chase because they know how good he is. They know what he's capable of. But when they double team Jamar Chase, they have to leave. They're more than likely leaving T. Higgins open. And if they don't, so what they'll do is they'll put their best defender against T. Higgins, double team Jamar Chase. Well, now leaves you 3-4 slots guys open. So bringing in a guy like A.J. Brown, where he automatically, in my opinion, goes to number 1, maybe by default from Chargers fans, Keenan Allen's number 1, but if not 1-2 scenario right there, you're forcing teams to start focusing in on one receiver, which leaves the rest of the unit open, even for your tight end. And like I mentioned, you do need to have, so here's one of the solutions that I have going for the Chargers that can help. Obviously we can improve on the offensive line. I think we can improve on our pass protection. Also, maybe drawing up some plays where tight ends stay behind and our running backs go. Maybe we come out of two men in the backfield along with the quarterback for shotgun positions. I think that needs to be broken down, and Jim Harbaugh needs to have a good conversation with whoever's the next offensive coordinator. But now what you have to do is you have to draw up plays that Justin Herbert doesn't take a lot of time. He knows where his target is. He knows by the way he's reading it. A.J. Brown's double covered. Keenan Allen is, mixed up right there. I'm going to target Layden McConkey, so I'll check everything, and it's going to be a 1-2 quick and go. Those, simplifying based off of the tools that you will have around, because then you'll have those moments where A.J. Brown gets that spotlight. The only concern that I have, and I don't know A.J. Brown that well, but one of the things that I get concerned about with a player like him and the controversy that we see him lurk within the Eagles organization is that he does want, I feel like he wants the spotlight. He wants to be the prized possession. He wants to be at the top of the, hey, look at me. I am the player that you do or die. I'm not going to be perfect, but you're going to give me the ball 90% of the time, and I'm going to make that play for you. I just think, does that mindset, I don't even know how true to that is, but does that mindset change when we talk about going to a different team? All right, you want out of Philadelphia? Let's get you out of Philadelphia. Does that mindset change with the Patriots, or change with the Ravens, or even change with the Bills? And when you look at, if you're a team out there, yes, the skill set is, I give up draft picks for him. But I need to also be sure that he's not going to come into the organization and create drama that we can't handle. I don't need confrontation from head coaches. And that's what maybe bothers me about this deal. And this is what kind of maybe eliminates a team like the Chargers or a team like the Broncos, because you're dealing with Jim Harbaugh. You're dealing with, Sean Payton. You're not going to get too many people to have these type of confrontations with these head coaches. They're going to sit you down, and they're going to, you're going to be removed quickly. So is there room with Mike Vrabel works? Sure. Whoever this new head coach for the Ravens, could that work? Possibly. Does Josh Allen, can he keep a leash on A.J. Brown? Those are questions that would be interesting to find out. Here's the other thing that I want to look at here to top off this conversation is the dead cap. Prior to June 1st, which is the trade dead cap, A.J. Brown will be worth about $43 million. And a saving is going to be a negative $20 million. I'll get to that in a moment. there's really no understanding what the dead cap would be for 2027. Well, if you look past June 1st, A.J. Brown's dead cap for 2026 is $16 million. It's dropped $20 million. Matter of fact, you'll save $7 million out of that deal. And then coming into 2027, you're seeing about $27 million. What that tells me right there, those numbers, those pre and post dead cap, is that if there is a deal that is to be done, it's not going to happen until after June 1st. Unless this team has the extra money, which I don't think anyone wants to spend $43 million on A.J. Brown. Not saying he's not worth it, but this would be a trade. This would be, people will wait, and because you'll look, that's nearly $30 million difference between pre and post. I would argue that I would wait until at least June 1st, make a deal done, save myself some money, and then we could reevaluate it in 2027. So I would be interested to see when a deal gets done. My prediction is that this deal won't get done until a trade wouldn't be interested until after the draft, which also may play an effect by some of these teams I just mentioned, because they're not going to sit around and wait. They're going to want to know what they need, who they need. And that happens in April. You're going to have about 6 to 8 weeks before, unless you're willing to eat $30 million, $20 million, then you're going to have to wait at least 6 to 8 weeks before trying to get your hands on A.J. Brown. This is going to probably be one of the, depending how it goes and how quickly it goes, I feel like it's going to be one of the biggest thing in the offseason. Biggest conversation in football in Philadelphia for A.J. Brown and for these contender teams that are interested. It's going to be, a pivotal conversation. All right. I want to get to talking about my top 5 here. But before doing that, let me share with you, because I have it saved. I got to pop it up. I got to find it, pop it up. Tomorrow, by the way, I want to talk a little bit about the first ballot Hall of Famers for 2026. We'll review that list. Let me see if I have found it. Oh, and maybe it's saved under my phone. Maybe not. I guess I don't know where I even put this. Nope. I know exactly where it's. I'm sorry. All right, let me talk about Enlighten Studios for a moment, and I'm going to pop that up, and we'll be ready to go. Okay, so we know Enlighten Studios has their upcoming theater production of Grassroots, and that's coming our way February 27th through March 8th. Tickets are still available. It's going to be at the Archville Theater in Cincinnati, Ohio. You can head to tickettailor.com, search Grassroots, and get your tickets today. You don't want to miss out. It's going to be a 1950s atmosphere. Tell you, don't want to miss it. But Enlighten Studios has other events. And so just posted here yesterday, I wanted to share and offer this for people who live in the Cincinnati area. They have an event coming on for a Valentine's Day class called Paint and Pastries. It'll be going on at the Archville in Cincinnati, Ohio from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on February 13th. Paint and Pastries is a colorful, casual party atmosphere where you will sit back, relax, and let your creativity blossom. Our step-by-step painting classes are designed with you in mind. Invite your friends and family. Enjoy your tasty treats and follow along with our experienced local artist. Never painted before? No problem. These painting sessions are created just for you. FYI, feel free to bring your own sip. But booking classes, they do get full. I could tell through past experience from what I've seen on photos and videos is something that you want to be a part of, and I will share the link with you in the description below. So if you live in the Cincinnati area, I think this is a fun thing to do. Highly recommend getting your tickets, checking it out. They have one going on every month from February through November. So be a part of Enlightened Studios, be a part of their painting class. Take something away with you while you get to learn and enjoy a fun atmosphere with all of this. So, paint and pastries. But those are the two things going on in the month of February, and it's coming in pretty fast. All right. WWE time. You know, I was listening to, at the top of my head, I don't remember. I was listening to something yesterday, and they were talking about something that, about the work ethics. And I was going through this list to try to figure out my top 5 WWE stars for 2025. And one of the things I was struggling to put together was this workhorse. It wasn't too long back that, it was announced that Seth Rollins was the workhorse of the year. He had over 200 matches in the WWE, and, he really helped paved and carry the WWE on the back of his shoulders through the work that he did in that year. And I like to see those type of things. Well, things have changed. WWE, a lot of professional wrestling companies have gotten rid of house shows, and it has taken time away from athletes in the ring. So instead of having 100, 200 matches a year, you're wrestling, and that means, after 52 years, you have to wrestle 4 times a week. You're probably wrestling once, twice, maybe 3 times a month. Your highest the highest match for a WWE wrestler this past year was 65, and that was LA Knight. We still haven't seen him all year long. And I just, we're never going to get back to that. But that troubles me a little bit. And it troubles me because how do you improve and work on your skill unless you're out there doing it? It's like going to work 5 days a week. It's like being a baseball player, being a football player. I understand there's a lot more that would go into a wrestling match than a sporting event, but when you're limited on matches, how do you grow? How do you adapt? One thing that I will take away from the matches, it creates diversity. It creates opportunity to have matches and to get into feuds with people and work with different type of people. I feel like wrestling today has kind of narrowed down. You're competing against the same people within a certain class time after time after time again throughout the entire year, and you don't have to be willing to adapt into a change based off of what you're capable of doing. And, there's a local wrestling company in the area, old wrestling companies called NWF. And, when I was going to their shows, when I was getting involved and wanting to learn, I kept hearing, well, it's restricted. It's, who's going to work with who. And part of it just goes back in the old days where it doesn't matter. You're going to get paid. If you get paired with somebody, you got to find a way, whether you like them or not, whether you're going to be able to have to adapt, and you're going to have to change with the time and make it work. And if it doesn't work, your job's reflected by it. Today, I feel like things get a little bit more, different, and it steers away. And then, like I said, they're not out there as often. I mean, they were talking about AEW, but they also gave an example of Tiffany Stratton. Tiffany Stratton, a year ago, was on her way up. She got promoted. And, you will look to see, all right, now she had what it takes to get from NXT to the WWE. But when you look, and she finally got that moment from the beginning of the year to to WrestleMania. But after WrestleMania, what else does she continue to climb? How does she improve? Did she improve is she better now compared to what she was back in NXT? And that is a difficult question to answer because she hasn't had a lot of ring time in the WWE. You know, it's like a baseball player. Your batting average is going to stink until you get out there and you have 200-300 at bats. You know, it's going to happen. We're coming up on baseball season. This is why spring training is there. Pitchers need to throw innings and sessions. Batters need to get at plate appearances. Players need to get back into the swing of things. They need 200-300 at bats before even stepping onto the field. And even then, that's going to change. Wrestlers need to continue to work on their skill inside the ring to progress and to move forward. All right, well, I'm going to get down to the top 5 wrestlers from the WWE who I think made my list in 2025. This is both in WWE and NXT. And I'm thinking of 2 subjects here when I talk about the list. One, their accomplishments and how much they have improved or carried their brand throughout the year. And 2, something referring back to John Cena. Did you leave this company in a better place than when you left at? If you would have retired today, was this company left in a better position? So coming in at number 5, before we get into number 5, I took down a handful list who I thought before I was doing my research. I think it's fair to say to throw in mention guys out here that would have made my top 5 if we extended it to a top 6. So I wanted to share with you guys like Chad Gable, Ilja Dragunov. They're impeccable in the ring, and they really got pushed and showcased. Unfortunately, they didn't make my top 5 because of injuries, and they didn't give us a full year. Now, it's not due to anyone's fault. Injuries happen, but I wanted to get to be able to use the entire year. Other guys, Obafemi, Joe Hendry. Obafemi was a 2-time champion, NXT champion. He won 80% percent rate, which is the highest in WWE for 2025 of his matches. He debuted on the main roster, stepping up to the call, facing Cody Rhodes at the last Saturday Night Main Event, and he was also ranked number 14 in PWI's top 500. But he didn't quite make the list, and you'll know why here in a moment. Joe Hendry's another one. He made his Royal Rumble appearance in 2025. He also won the TNA World Champion. He's also main evented, and he also competed. He also wrestled in the on the main roster and competed at WrestleMania 41, where he took on Randy Orton. So those are a few guys that to me made the list, but didn't make the list if we had an extended one. Coming in at number 5, I have Cody Rhodes. And I know this may come of a shock, but Cody Rhodes has kept a steady path, but nothing really skyrocketing in accomplishments this year. He's a King of the Ring winner this year. He won back his WWE Championship that he lost to John Cena at WrestleMania. He main evented at WrestleMania 41, and that's where he's at in his career. But the reason why he's on this top 5 list is for what he's left outside the ring, because he was announced as the most fulfilled Make-A-Wish partner, and that is key and important to note. So that's why Cody Rhodes makes the top 5 at number 5. Coming in at number 4, I'm going to throw in John Cena. John Cena has accomplished a few things that really just sealed his Hall of Fame career this year. Becoming 17-time WWE champion, surpassing Ric Flair of the most WWE championship collectives. But a key note to that is that the amount of times that you win that championship is also the amount of times that you lost that championship. He was also a Grand Slam champion, winning the Intercontinental Championship from Dominic Mysterio, but yet again, he lost it to Dominic Mysterio at Survivor Series. He had a successful heel turn, which is note to be mentioned because that's what everyone wanted. But I think what really accomplished me was the fact that he was able to give us one full year. Now, it wasn't 52 dates. It wasn't 200 appearances. He has selective dates. It was what the WWE designed for him and worked for him. And the fact that, a lot of things could have went wrong early on. He could have got hurt, and that would have led him not to be able to complete this calendar year. But the fact that he was able to stay healthy, he worked safely, he was able to get what he wanted out and give back to the younger generation, that what makes him in my top 5. You gotta also think about it. He's more likely not making my top 5 anymore. Coming in at number 3 is Trick Williams. I know I mentioned guys like Obafemi and Joe Hendry, but Trick Williams under NXT became an NXT a TNA champion. He became a 2-time NXT champion this year. He's ranked 19th in the PWI 500 Top 500. He also was nominated and won the NXT Match of the Year in the triple threat match with guys when he faced Obafemi and Javon Evans in a NXT Stand and Deliver. I mean, there's a lot of guys from NXT who got a push this year because they were partnering and working along with TNA throughout the course of the year that really elevated the show. They keep on thriving, and it's almost a question I'm asking myself, why don't I watch TNA? But Trick Williams just made it to the new roster, and after everything we just talked about over the last 10, 15 minutes, the question, I'm just intrigued because we saw Javon come up. Obafemi just relinquished his NXT championship the other week on NXT, so I think we're going to possibly see a main roster solidify his next movement. But I hope it doesn't stop there. I hope the rise continues because these are young, granted, gifted, talented stars that can make a splash in the industry. And that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But Trick Williams comes in at number 3. Coming in at number 2, I know everyone's going to hate this, but Gunther. He was a world heavyweight champion this year. He retired Goldberg back in the Saturday Night Main Event of July. He also retired John Cena in the Saturday Night Main Event of December. Don't forget, he made him tap out, by the way. And he also was the number 1 man star and nominated as the heel of the year. This guy is continuing to grow. He didn't have to do much this year to grow. Let's face it. Didn't have to do much to grow. And that's why, he's accomplished so much. I feel like we're in a comfortable position 2026 with guys like Gunther and Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker, guys that are getting pushed up the way that we need to see it happen. I think a lot is hitting the sport entertainment world by surprise. And coming in at number 1 is going to be Dominic Mysterio. ESPN has named him Male Wrestler of the Year. He's won the Intercontinental Championship. He's won the AAA Mega Championship. He has held multiple championships simultaneously. Let's not forget he's beaten John Cena. He has just embraced this Eddie Guerrero-like heel run, and it has taken the world. Everywhere he goes, people boo him, but I feel like he's getting to the point where he's booed so much that people are starting to appreciate him and like him. It's crazy, right? I think, and I just think it needs to be recognized that Dominic Mysterio is very engaging. You want to watch what he does next. What is next is pushing forward, but look at what he's doing. And I know there's a lot of other people, but he's helping. He's one of the pioneers that's, in 10, 15 years, we're going to talk about this. He's becoming a pioneer of lucha wrestling in 2025 in this new generation of lucha wrestling talent. He is paving the way. He's putting inking his his signature on these landmarks of the wrestling companies like AAA, and he's giving back, and he's propelling to new heights. And I think that's just worth being a number one. And that is my top 5 male WWE wrestlers of 2025. Seth Rollins didn't make the list because he got hurt, but I think worth enough to mention here because Seth Rollins won the Money in the Bank. He became the World Heavyweight Champion. He won the Crown Jewel he became the Crown Jewel Champion of 2025. He also main evented WrestleMania Night 1, and he also is formed and is the founder of The Vision. So just a few names to mention, but what do you guys think? Who is your top 5 WWE athletes, male wrestlers of the year? Let me know down in the comments below. Look, it's going to be difference of opinion. So many great talents that deserves to be up there, but I encourage you, I challenge you to dig deep and to find a reason why they belong in the top 5. Next Wednesday, we will give you our top 5 WWE female wrestlers of 2025, along with our WWE tops for 2025 as that continues here in the month of January. Tomorrow, we will be talking about the first ballot Hall of Famers. We will also begin our conversations into the divisional rounds as 4 games are scheduled to take place this weekend, and who we start to think who was going to win as well. But boy, that hour came and gone really fast. And what do we know? We know that there is a new future for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We know that whatever Mike Tomlin decides to do, he's legendary. We know that A.J. Brown has some options and is going to have some decisions to make, and so along with the Phillies heading into the offseason about a potential trade. And we know that the Dominic Mysterio is the man of the year according to ESPN. And Gunther retired not 1, but 2 athletes this past year. So that is all the time I have for you guys today. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Have those notifications on so you don't miss a single episode. Be sure to follow us, share us on our podcasting apps, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Castbox, Spotify. Wherever you get this podcast, share it with a friend, follow us. Don't forget to have those notifications on so you don't miss a single episode. And join us on our social media pages. Check out our shorts on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, X. Keep up to date with what we're revealing on sports news and stories and updates. So that is all the time I have for you. Until tomorrow, thank you guys for tuning in and have yourself a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.